Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Films by Jeremy, and it's so awesome to have you back for yet again another video. And I guess the question to you is, how is everyone doing today? Hopefully this year has been great so far, especially if you're a freelance videographer or photographer. I know it's tough out there, times are tough, things are competitive, but just let me know in the comments how you're doing. So it's always an exciting time when SmallRig reaches out to me and asks if I want to take a look at one of their products. And I can't ever help myself but to say yes, because I have been using SmallRig since the beginning of my videography, photography journey. Everything I own, cage-wise so far is SmallRig. The lighting over there is a SmallRig RC100B, and just so many things. SmallRig lives in my house and in my office and in my camera bag, which is what matters most. So to my surprise, they sent me something I think so far is the most exciting thing yet. And it's quite honestly too big to unbox in this little area, so we'll take it somewhere else. Oh, you know it's gonna be a big one when we have the 2 camera system rolling. And once again, for those of you who are curious as to what I'm using today for my gear, I'm using the S5 Mark IIX with the 18 f1.8 prime by Lumix, and then I'm using the S9 over here with the 24-70 by Sigma. So before we open this, I must disclose that no, I'm not getting paid for this video. SmallRig did send this to me and I don't need to return it, nor do they really have a say in, what I do in this video and when it goes live. This will be my own thoughts. They didn't tell me to say anything, and I'm just excited to dig in. So let's start. First things first, the classic box within a box. So this is the SmallRig HawkLock shoulder rig kit, SR007 Pro. The shoulder rig comes with a hard shell protective case. So this is all that's included within the box. Of course, we have the paperwork, and we have some hex screws and accessories, and then the shoulder rig itself. There's a lot of parts here, and I've never owned a shoulder rig before, nor have I ever used one. So I really don't know what I'm getting myself into. So this is the main meat and potatoes of the rig itself. Here's our quick release plate. Also, you can see on the top here, it's Arca Swiss, so you could just slide in and out your Arca Swiss mounting plates if you have any, but if not, then you could just screw in with the regular hex screws on the bottom of the plate. This is a little pad for the back of your shoulder. So next we have a 15mm rod adapter, which can just be installed on the base plate itself. So let's do that. And what is good with an adapter if there are no rods? And so we have 2 small 15mm rods right here that then get screwed into the adapter like this. And then last but not least, we have a single 15mm rod clamp, which once again just gets screwed in with a hex screw into the base plate. I guess what this rod clamp is for your accessories, follow focusing systems, and all of that stuff. Before we move on with this next part, if there's one item I could recommend to you, is the SmallRig quick release archetype base and plate. It turns every camera that you own into an Arca Swiss enabled camera, such as my Blackmagic, which I'll be using for this demonstration. And what Arca Swiss is, if you don't really know, is that it essentially just allows you to slide your camera on and off of, let's say, for example, this tripod here. I can just take the camera off and use it normally, and then put it back on with ease. And a lot of different tripods and a lot of different mounts have Arca Swiss, and it's just so much more convenient than having to screw and unscrew a base plate. And what I like about this base plate is that it has the base plate and Arca Swiss enabled. So I can just slide my camera up onto the base plate here, and I just heard it lock. And now the camera is nice and fastened. So now we're going to actually mount the camera onto the shoulder rig. And it is incredibly easy. You just slide this thing on, make sure everything is nice and locked. And what I like about this thing too, and I saw it in the promotional videos, is that you could kind of rig it out however you would like. So it's not only just a shoulder rig. It could also just be like a regular camera rig like this. And you could just keep adding your mounts and stuff to it, and rolling up with something that looks like this is a little crazy. But that's not why we're here. And just like that, we have it together. And honestly, I'm not really entirely sure if I'm doing this right, but it feels right. So let's break it down a little bit. We have the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera as our camera here, and our lens is the Sigma 18-35 f1.8 with a Viltrox EF to micro four thirds speed booster, which then opens up the aperture a little more, hence speed booster. I have the SmallRig follow focusing system. I did a video on that. Atomos Shinobi monitor, hooked in with a magic arm, again from SmallRig, a SmallRig V-mount plate that just inserts into the 15mm rods with a SmallRig 99 V-mount battery. So this is all very much on brand SmallRig. And that just leads me to a quick suggestion. If you are looking to rig up any shoulder rig, whether it be this one or another shoulder rig, you're gonna want a few extra items, especially if you're rocking a camera like the Blackmagic and not a DSLR with like autofocus and everything. And the reason I chose the Blackmagic was for the lack of autofocus, for the lack of image stabilization. So when I get into my tests, we'll compare the image stabilization to in camera versus the shoulder rig. However, you're gonna need a few extra things to get this rigged out properly, such as the magic arm to connect the monitor to the shoulder rig. And the same that goes with the follow focusing system as well. I have a magic arm just gripping the shoulder rig's arm here. And this is stuff that doesn't come with the shoulder rig. So if you want to rig this the same way I did, you're just gonna need those extra items. So my wife and I went out to our local park to demonstrate shots with the shoulder rig versus without the shoulder rig. Some of these shots are in 1080p, so if you're wondering why they're a little soft, that's the reason. I honestly just forgot to set it to 4K B-RAW. Nothing was added in post for either of these demonstrations for image stabilization. So without the rig, it's just kind of your typical handheld footage. You could see the edges of the frame are just a little jittery. And with the shoulder rig, there is still some of that handheld shake, but it's less of a jitter, more of a natural sway. I think the shoulder rig does a pretty good job of stabilizing your footage while still having that handheld documentary-esque look. Things I like about the shoulder rig. So when you're running a camera like a cinema camera, the Blackmagic Pocket 4K, or anything in that kind of line, you really want to rig out that kind of camera with your V-mount battery, follow focus, all that good stuff. And with this rig, it just kind of takes the weight off of your back, with also being able to easily set it back down again. It's comfortable. The shoulder pads and back pads are pretty comfortable. Of course, obviously with a prolonged period of time of recording and holding it, I'm sure that your shoulder will start feeling a little tired or sore with the pressure of the shoulder pad. But from what I experienced, it was pretty comfortable. It felt nice having the pad rest on my shoulder and on my back. Immersion. It really felt like the camera was more of an extension of me and less of me holding something, with the monitor being kind of like right up into my face. The commitment of having that rig on your shoulder and being a part of you, I just felt like I was becoming more immersed and locked into what I was shooting, if that makes any sense. So things I don't like, or cons. You might find yourself squatting or on your tippy toes while using this rig, as the only real way to raise or lower your shots is to go on your tippy toes or squat, as the height can only really be adjusted by its user. So if you're short, you might be looking up a lot if your subject is tall, or if you're tall, you might be aiming down a little bit if your subject is short, as I don't really think you're expected to be squatting while walking the entire time. The sound of the adjustments. So when you're making adjustments to the grips or the arms, there's a
audible clicking sound. I see that being a little off-putting to some users.
The price. So the HawkLock shoulder rig isn't cheap. It's running you $389.99 US dollars or 558 Canadian dollars.
So who is this for? If you're into broadcasting or documentary work where you're using a heavy rig, this is certainly something that you might want to consider. You could get something like an easy rig to also accomplish the removing the weight off your shoulders and back. But an easy rig, even removing the camera off it, which takes a little bit of tinkering, you will still have that backpack with the hook on, where this you could just put down or just hold it in your hand and walk like normal. So do I recommend the SmallRig HawkLock shoulder rig kit SR007 Pro? That's a mouthful. I personally think this is a great piece of gear. SmallRig creates quality stuff. And yes, I am glazing them a little bit, but also I do, I've never had an issue with any of their products, but it's not really made for the average videographer. If you're a wedding videographer, if you're a, event videographer, perhaps you'll want a gimbal or just go handheld. This is for a very specific kind of videographer, a documentarian, a broadcaster. If you're just a videographer who wants a minimal pickup, put down rig where you could get any angle, any shot on a whim, perhaps this isn't for you. So before I end the video, I just want to say thank you so much to SmallRig for sending me out the shoulder rig. It is pretty fun to use and pretty awesome to rig out. I'll see if I can find any use cases for my professional work or personal work, and I'll be sure to let you know. Again, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't yet, please feel free to subscribe, and I'll be sure to catch you in the next one. Bye now.